First one got measured the other day. Turns out I'm 6'8.5". Secondly, currently my best friend.
The speech might be a bit different, you know.
Right, okay. I'm just going to make sure I'm out of striking distance. Hi everyone. For those that don't know, actually this might not work, so I think he's just introduced me. My name's Dom. And I'd just like to say how honoured I am to be the best man on such a special occasion. It's, it's great to be here, it really is. To be honest with you, I'm feeling a bit nervous about this. I've been struggling to sleep, my stomach's been churning, and I've been feeling sick just thinking about this speech. But then I realised that actually that's now compared to how early he's going to be feeling, realising that she's waking up next to that fish. So, I first met Will about 12 years ago when me and Seb Dykes, he's coming up a lot, isn't he? Ended up going to a party. And we're at that age when you're just kind of like getting into drinking, parties and girls, and it seemed that Will was one of those who really threw themselves into it, especially, almost exclusively, the drinking part. So the door opens up and we're confronted by this young man who looked like he'd just been kicked out of a razor-like cover band. You know? Hair everywhere,
it was terrible.
Sprayed on, very, very mid-2000s indie. Yeah. Or as we would call it, very rock and roll. So after a short period of time at this party, me and Seb basically just started following Will around because he was roundly insulting anybody that he came into the tiniest bit of contact with. At the time, you might be surprised to find out about it now, I used to have dreadlocks. It was a good idea, wasn't it? So Will was calling me Pineapple Head, really original. But basically, it was hilarious, and he was drunk, belligerent, obnoxious. And he was perfect, he was just what we wanted. So I moved to the same village as him a few months after that. It wasn't deliberate, like I didn't insist on it. It wasn't like I thought I found my soulmate or anything like that. It just ended up there. And it was great because we were all accepted into the home of Claire and Archie, who always made us feel incredibly welcome, and they tolerated us with remarkable good humour and grace over the years, even when Bernie was stood on your dining room table rapping along to Ice Ice Baby. Good on you, Bob.
Yeah, in a bit.
We're also very fortunate to have Nick as an equally gracious host who was always providing us with food, sound advice and a place to drink, even when we were vomiting in your back garden. But honestly, there's a lot of good memories from that time in my life, and I, for one, feel like I've kind of become a surrogate son to you guys over that time. And, I hope it's not because you're so disappointed with the son that you actually
Low blow.
So at this point I'm supposed to tell a couple of anecdotes about Will, so I thought I'd use the opportunity to point out some of the flaws in his character. Quite a while. And to tell stories that illustrate that. So one of these flaws, and this does not bode well for you, Ellie, is that the very last thing Will Jones is a man of his word. A guarantee from Will Jones is worth nothing. So here's an example of this. You might have noticed that over the last few years, Will's been getting a bit thin on top.
Says you.
Don't get me wrong, like, he's got quite a way to catch up with me, but it's certainly not the glorious Barnet of old, is it? I think you'd agree with that, wouldn't you?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
So Will noticed this as well and decided that something's got to be done. So in the summer of 2013, Will it's too far gone now, I'm shaving it off, I've had enough. In the September 2013. So the date comes around and his hair's still there, magically stays in place. So we ignore it, thinking, fair enough, he's got a good head of hair, he doesn't need to get rid of it quite yet. Spends the next year insisting that it's going to come off. He's absolutely adamant about it. September rolls around again, he's still got hair on his head, a lot less, but he's still got some hair there. So the next year he assures it that he's getting rid, and at this point it's very much necessary because he's clinging onto it. And it doesn't happen again. Finally, about 4 years after he first told us he was going to shave his hair off, he does it. And as you can see, that promise didn't last very long because he managed about 5 months and now he's paying through the nose to try and grow his hair. Which I'm telling you, it's not going to work.
Oh God.
So I suppose the moral of this story really is that if you want Will to do anything, you need to ask him 4 years in advance and then not be surprised when he doesn't do it anyway.
Hey!
So there was another time that he told Rob Claxton that if you guess how much change he had in his pockets within the nearest 10p, give all of it to him. Will have £4.57 in his pocket. Against all the odds, Rob guessed correctly, like bang on. Like it wasn't even 10p, it was £4.57, he said it.
Go on.
Rob couldn't believe his luck, like bang on, incredible. What are the chances of that happening? Anyway, that feeling didn't last very long as Will refused to give it to him. Another example. Plenty of these, I can drop a few if you want. Will's always been one for like a few quiet pints in the pub, get home, Parlour, double chips, you're sorted. In theory. In practice, 9 times out of 10, he's in the club at 2 o'clock in the morning, perplexed and angry about the turn of events.
Yes.
And finally, this is the last one. Me and him said we'd do Dry January one year, so we went out on like 3rd of January for someone's birthday or like some event, something like that. I had a couple of soft drinks, went home. Will, in contrast to that, stayed out boozing until 3 in the morning and bought everybody a bottle of champagne to celebrate Dry January.
Remember that?
But having said that, I would like to point out that some of the stories do have redeeming features. It's kind of like antithesis for me to point out Will's redeeming features, but considering the nature of the occasion, I'll go for it. But Will doesn't actually even like champagne, or so he claims. So it's one of those great examples of how generous Will can be when he's drunk. And the other one is that Will actually met Ellie in the club, as we've just, well, the Willow, one night when I'm sure he was planning to be tucked up in bed by midnight. So if he had kept his word and not gotten into that sordid, unhygienic Chinese disco, he might never have met the love of his life. So that's good news. So I've got more bad stuff to say about Will. Unfortunately for him, but very fortunately for us, Will's got a bit of a habit of not always engaging his brain before he acts or speaks, as I'm sure everyone who's spent more than an hour in his company has realised by this point. So this has led to a number of what I like to call Willisms over the years. A small selection of these include encountering a self-service Krispy Kreme donut dispenser in Tesco, and in response to floundering in his search for tongs, declared to me very loudly, "What? They expect me to use my hands like a dog?"
I love that one.
So when he first joined the NHS, he smugly informed me after his induction that he was getting a tunic that was tailor-made, because he'd been taken into a room and measured up by a bloke that worked for the hospital. And the first time I saw him after work in his ill-fitting smock and trousers, I asked him what had happened to the tailored clothes, and he shamefacedly told me that the NHS doesn't actually provide a tailoring service, and no one knew who the fella was who'd so gently when Ellie first became his fiance, doing it well now. When Ellis, sorry, first he accidentally referred to her as his engaged wife-to-be, which led to quite a few questions about who Ellie was already married to. He was once asked how many eggs he'd eat in 24 hours to save his family. He said, he said 6. 6 eggs in 24 hours. I've actually seen him eat more than 6 eggs in one sitting before. So I'm sure that makes you feel really good about it. The pinnacle of this one. And I know there's going to be a few people that know exactly what story I'm going to tell.
Even I know.
Yeah. 21st birthday.
Oh God, no.
Will's just got a brand new iPhone.
Oh God. Oh, not that one.
Sort of first out, real techie, expensive bit of kit, like, you know, pinnacle of phone. So basically, at the end of like no doubt civilised evening, Will had to relieve himself on return to his dad's house. He dropped the phone down the toilet. So this was before, nowadays, you know, we all know, bed of rice, put it on top of a wardrobe, whatever, you go to in the morning, you roll, it's the best. We didn't know about that in the days of, what, 2012 or 2011 or whatever it was. So Will's advice was wrap it in a towel, put it down the back of the radiator, we'll have a look at it in the morning. So Will does that, really good idea, waits patiently for about 10 minutes, and then he's like, nah, not going to be quick enough. So he starts frantically looking around the house for something that's going to dry it a bit quicker. So for reasons only known to Will, he decides to go for the oven. Low heat, keep an eye on it, job's a good one. A few minutes later, drunkenly staring into the oven as he slowly cooks his brand new phone, he has made a huge mistake. It's going to take far too long. So luckily he has a brainwave. He grabs it out of the oven, chuckling at what a fool he's been about, sticking it in there, before putting it in the microwave.
Microwave his phone. What a dick.
About 3 seconds later, accompanied by a bit of flashing and banging, Will takes his warped and broken 500 quid phone out of there and learns a valuable lesson at the ripe old age of 21. Kids, listen to this. Don't put anything electronic, even anything metal in the microwave, because it blows up. But you managed to get about 9 quid for that, didn't you, on Envirophone?
Yeah.
But all of these stories only really serve to show how lucky Will is to have found Ellie. I mean, given that he thought dogs had hands, it's necessary that he's got somebody around to explain differences in animals and particularly confusing films. And I honestly do think that Will's found that person in Ellie. You know, she's a loving, generous, kind woman who's an expert in animals. Which, Will once saw Ellie working at the vets doing a bit of work on a cat. And when Ellie came out, Will was like, "Oh, what's wrong with that dog?" Ellie was absolutely dumbfounded, honestly. And she seems to have a special look of disdain that she reserves entirely for Will. And I do think that's my favourite thing about her. So I'm not the only one that spotted it. I mean, fortunately for Will, I think she'd already agreed to marry him by this point, so it wasn't too bad. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Ellie for reducing my workload in terms of explaining things to Will. He once rang me in a panic while I was at work. He couldn't work out what was going on in the boy in the striped pyjamas. It gets better. The reason he was confused is because everyone had English accents. So he couldn't work out whether the Nazis were Nazis or and like I guess that the implication is that he didn't know who'd actually committed the Holocaust. Bearing in mind I've not seen the film, like he had to explain all this to me before sort of reassured, no, don't worry about it, it was the Nazis, it wasn't. We're alright. I'd also like to point out it's a children's film. So generally it's a real relief that I don't have sole responsibility for him anymore. And just before I sort of get to my last bit, I've got loads of these stories. I couldn't give you them all because I'll be up here for 2 hours. So if anyone does want to hear any more, just come to me and I can give you them all. I won't be bothered. I'll be in a corner somewhere, it's fine. But finally, I do just want to say a big, just before I do this last little bit as well, turning to Will again. As I say, I could stay up here for 2 hours telling you stupid things that Will's done. But I could also equally spend the same amount of time standing up here, say what a great guy Will is, how close we've been over the years, everything that he's done for me. But I kind of thought it'd be more fun to take the mick out of him for 2 minutes rather than say a load of nice stuff, because you'll all be doing that to him anyway. So, you know, he is a great guy, he is my best friend, but it's a lot more fun to take the mick out of him. So I just want to say thanks to Will, thanks to Ellie, you look brilliant. All the bridesmaids who've done a wonderful job all day, and everyone that's had a part to play in this. I want to wish you the best of luck in the future. I'm sure you'll have a great life as a married couple. Will, very lucky man to have met Ellie. Ellie, you haven't thought this through. It will be the last time, I promise you. But if you wouldn't mind getting on your feet, raising a glass, to Mr. and Mrs. Passeri-Jones. Congratulations, guys. And that's it, I think.
Yay!
Yeah.